So that's low.
Hello, my name's Adam, and this is my first gen 4runner with a Cummins R2.8 swap.
What year is it?
1985. I bought it in 2019. I actually found it on local Craigslist, go figure. Its backstory is that it was originally a California vehicle purchased in Southern California by a family, who then sold it to a fellow named Mike, who in the 90s swapped the stock 22RE engine out for a Toyota 2LT diesel. It's a fairly easy swap. It uses the same transmission and motor mounts, and it's was mechanical diesel, so very easy for him to do that. And then he sold it to another fellow, who then 10 years later or so sold it to me. I ran with that original 2LT engine for about 2 years, but it had some problems. First, it started just puking oil from under the head. Replaced the head, did it again. Intercooling system had all sorts of leaks, and it was just basically undrivable. And that happened right before the onset of the pandemic. So I was kind of left with the option of selling it and getting something new, or doubling down on it and kind of building it out so it actually functioned the way I wanted it to function, and I could use it the way that I wanted to use it for trips up into the mountains or desert or what have you. After the 2LT went bad, I was kind of deciding what I wanted to do, and I peripherally had known about the Cummins R2.8 just through internet research, and also being a fan of the TV show Dirt Every Day with Fred Williams and Dave Chappelle. Fred put one of these in a Jeep and then drove it through a lake, and it kind of left an impression on me. What I wanted to do with it was kind of preserve the spirit that it had with that 2LT. I'd gotten a taste for what the diesel was sort of all about through knowing about these trucks. They have a really unique transmission and transfer case setup that I wanted to utilize in conjunction with the diesel. While researching, looking for advice, talking to George from Valley Hybrid, which is a Land Cruiser shop here in the Bay Area, and he gave me the phone number to talk to Marlin of Marlin Crawler, while Marlin was still alive. Unfortunately, he passed a couple years ago. Marlin is like the old school Toyota guru, and kind of developed the technologies that are used and have been used for using these kinds of vehicles for rock crawling. Absolutely instrumental as a Toyota person. And when I explained what my situation was with the vehicle, he brought up the Cummins R2.8 as something that he thought would be really cool. He also then sold me the transmission. I'm a mechanic, but come from a bicycling background, not an automotive thing. And I was really lucky to kind of just cold call Chuckle's Garage up in Santa Rosa. They were huge first gen 4runner fans there. Somehow I managed to talk them into doing it. So big ups to them. They're friends now. So this is the beating heart of the beast. This is the Cummins R2.8. The R2.8 is a 4-cylinder turbo diesel that you can actually purchase as a crate engine that comes with a computer, wiring harness, and accessory drive, and you kind of build out around it. From the factory, they're rated, I believe, about 165 horsepower and 310 foot-pounds of torque. So it's definitely got some get up and go. They use this engine in the US, as far as I know, in stuff like skid steers, telehandlers, airport equipment, that kind of thing. A slight variation of it is used in Australia and Asia for some commercially available pickup trucks as well. I bought it through a company called Quick Draw brand, who are really great to work with. They also make a lot of accessories and parts specifically for the swap, and in particular they make transmission adapter packages, including ones to the transmission I have. Doing that basically kind of opened up the possibility of this project. As you can probably tell from looking at it, it was definitely a real packaging challenge. It's a very tight fit. These engines, while not super deep, they are pretty tall, and these engine bays are not very big. So the guys did a really amazing job of getting it all to fit. We did not have to cut into the firewall, though we did have to cut and raise the transmission tunnel to get the bell housing to clear. Some other things that Bobby and the guys did to make it fit that I think are worthy of note is the custom made fan shroud and the front mount intercooler, which has a lot of custom piping that comes through, out, and then down and around to the front of the vehicle, and then pops back up through the fender. This is a composite oil pan that has all these fins in it, and we actually shaved them down a little bit so it doesn't smash into the diff. The only remaining things that are original to the engine bay at this point, other than a few little miscellaneous leftovers in the wiring harness, is this fuse and power distribution block, this power steering reservoir. I think that's it.
I think the windshield.
Oh yeah, and the windshield wiper motor. So everything else has been at some point replaced. Here, obviously the air intake, all of this is custom fabricated piping and mounting. Diff breather down there. Obviously this is all electrical stuff. Optima battery with the accessory post, very handy. No cross strap on there. We use a little Optima specific mount. This is a custom fan shroud. We're using a 16-inch Spall brushless fan, variable speed. So it does a really good job of pulling the air through and managing the temperatures, keeping it really steady. I'm actually pretty impressed with how quickly this thing can pull heat out of the system. This is a CSF radiator. For the Toyota nerds, one thing you can do on these originally 22 RE vehicles is the 3-liter radiator. It has the same fitment in terms of how it sits in the vehicle, but a slightly larger capacity. So that's a real easy upgrade right there. This is a remote oil filter, which makes for some really easy and convenient oil changes. One of the easiest vehicles to do that on that I've ever owned. Absolutely fantastic. ECU, as I mentioned before, and then obviously we've got the brake stuff right here. This has been upgraded from stock. This is a dual diaphragm booster out of a T100, and then a Land Cruiser 80 series Master, which is a larger bore, and that goes to some V6 calipers. Once again, just upgrading the brakes a little bit from stock. I am still drums in the back because they're fine and it lasts a long time. The front fascia of the vehicle, I tried to keep it relatively stock looking. So I've got the original Toyota grille and lights and all that, though the lights have been upgraded with some Holley retro brights, which required an H4 conversion harness to get that to work. They are really great headlights, and they're the only ones that look the part and have a warmer tone to them, because I don't like cold white LEDs. Makes the scenery less beautiful. One fun thing I did do to the grille is to improve the airflow to everything back here in the radiator. Is normally there's some coverings right here, and I went in with a Dremel, filed that all out and opened it up. The winch is a Warn 8S Evo, I believe the model is called, with a factor 55 flat link there. I've only had to use it once, but it worked great and it got me out of a muddy ditch, so I'm glad I have it. People will notice that it's mounted a little higher than people normally do that, and that's because I didn't want to block the intercooler, which is down here. And this is a custom made intercooler using a Mishimoto core. The bumper was made by Bobby. It's all handmade, TIG welded specifically to fit around the bumper. I have used it. I actually bent the right hand side once and we had to pull it back with a winch. Besides, the Holleys also have some KC era, I believe that they're called like the Flex Ones, auxiliary lights. Really great little lights, put out a surprisingly good amount of light for such a compact package. I haven't felt the need to put anything more on it other than that. And then these are my turn signals. So one of the things that we had to do to make it all fit was redo the steering. On these 84 and 85 4Runners, the steering uses a push-pull steering box that has a little linkage that attaches to a bracket down on the axle. It also has the tie rods below the leaf springs and in front of the differential. And so this now has high steer on it. And to do that, we're using a steering box from a slightly later first gen 4Runner, one of the IFS trucks, and then a flat pitman arm from Skies Off-Road. And these are Land Cruiser tie rods, and then a kit from Marlin Crawler for the knuckles. Really improved how it steers, much less bump steer, much less like rattle in the steering wheel. I think it's a better turning radius too. Really a much more dramatic improvement than I was expecting. I'm still using the original axles to the vehicle, mini truck axles. They just have a welded on bash guard from Rough Stuff Specialties on the pumpkin right there. I've got ARB lockers in both axles, and one fun thing I had to figure out to get the gear ratio to work with the lower RPMs of the diesel engine, I had to actually change to longer gears, lower numerically, whereas most rock crawler guys going to bigger tires go in the exact opposite direction. I already had the original 410 gears in here when the engine swap was completed. I felt like that wasn't enough, and I was kind of revving out on the highway. And I remembered that AE86 Corollas use the exact same axle in the rear, and people still drift those. So you can get 3.7s for Corollas, and they will fit in these axles. So that was a fun little puzzle piece to put together. These are the original wheels to the vehicle as well. They're just chrome steelies. These wheels were also used on Land Cruisers at the time. Kind of skinny, but I love steel wheels. I like, small rims and bigger sidewalls. The tires are Toyo Open Country RTs, 33 by 10.5 by 15. In the middle of the nice stock rims, I've got the stock Ison hubs, which I have never serviced and never replaced, and they still work great. To get the vehicle both high enough to clear the tires and fit the engine, we've got a little bit of a lift on here. I've got some Old Man Emu springs on the front, plus a trailer overload spring. We got some Bilsteins. I can't remember what model they are at this point, but they ride good, and they were the right size, and that's what mattered. They're actually from, I think, a Ford 250, F250. I wanted to keep it a leaf spring truck. A lot of people do like links and coils, but leaf springs party harder. There's just something about the simplicity and functionality of leafs that I enjoy, and I don't mind driving something that kind of is a little tractor-like in its road manners. As we go down this side here, these are some Marlin Crawler sliders just welded onto the frame. You can also get a little look at the exhaust down here. It's 3-inch stainless with I forget the model, but it's a MagnaFlow muffler in the middle. When these come from factory, the transmission cross member actually sits pretty low. It's kind of bulky. We got rid of that, and I think it's from a company I believe called Front Range Off-Road, and it mounts to the back of the transfer case and then sits on some pads welded onto the frame rail, and that gained me about 3 inches of belly clearance, plus the raising of everything with the transmission tunnel modification that I mentioned. So I've got incredibly good belly clearance for a vehicle that's only on 33s. In the back, the springs are from a company in Colorado called Alcan. They were made for the vehicle, though they were a little off when I got them. But there's a fantastic spring shop here in Oakland called A1 Springs. If you're local and you need spring work done in the Bay, they are definitely the OGs and have been around forever. 2 thumbs up to those guys. I also got a Marlin Crawler bumper in the back, and I'm still just keeping my spare in the stock factory location, because I think that's a good place for it. One fun thing back here is because I am using ARB air lockers, that means I have a compressor. A lot of people put the compressor in the engine bay. I don't like that because there's a lot of heat there and you hear it more. And also, if you want to use it as an air compressor to inflate your tires, you have to pop your hood open. So got it mounted right back here. I just pop the air hose in right there.
Very nice.
So we got the exhaust here as well. Like I said, 3-inch stainless. I believe it's all vibrant tubing. This is kind of how they exit on the vehicle from factory, and I like the side exit on the driver's side so I can keep an eye on what's going on back there, if anything. On this side, the most unusual thing is this is where I've got the fuel filters, and I actually also have a fast lift pump as well. And that is, we got a custom skid plate that protects the filters. So one of the cool things about this generation of Toyota is the transfer case is a part that bolts on to the back of the transmission, a plate. And in the person I mentioned earlier, Marlin, discovered or figured out a way to manufacture and machine a plate where you could then get a second transfer case and slap it on the back, and theoretically get another transfer case and slap it on the back ad infinitum, basically. With that, you can have multiple gear ratios, and you can use them either individually or together, and then they'll compound. So the factory low range is a 2.28 reduction, which I have in one of the cases, and then the other case I have a 4.7, and then I can, like I said, multiply them together, and then it's about a 10.5 reduction, which is just crazy low. And when combined with the diesel and all that low end torque, really gives a ton of capability. The transmission itself is a Toyota R151, which was out of a turbo pickup in 86 and 87. And I actively sought that one out for a couple of reasons. It's a little beefier than the stock W56 transmission. And it also has a lower first gear, which is nice for a turbo diesel because you can sit in it longer to build up boost before shifting into second. And it's also good for off-roading because lower is always better in off-roading when it comes to first gear. So yeah, so those red plates are the Marlin crawler adapters. And the whole transmission been beefed up. And the transfer cases were built by Yoda Man in Santa Rosa. I really wanted to make sure I kept the interior as factory-ish as was manageable with this swap. I wanted to keep all the gauges and the just feel of the vehicle, because that's one of the reasons that I like these things so much. It's fun, it's got a character to it, and it's nice to be inside. And this is an SR5 truck, which is a higher trim level. That's why it's got like the chromed trim on the fenders and the grill and whatnot. But that also means I've got a slightly better dash with a tachometer. That's an upgrade, believe it or not. And also the famous inclinometer right here, which tells you the pitch and yaw of the vehicle, as well as things like a barometer that tells you the altitude and stuff like that. It's fully mechanical, which I think is pretty cool. The only wire that goes to it actually just turns the light on. This is just a 3D printed little mount for Carling switches. This is the auxiliary light, the air compressor, and then front and rear lockers. And then I got a little Kenwood stereo subwoofer in the back, and I've put some slightly nicer speakers in the grill. Most of the stereo work was done by the previous owner. There's an amp in one of the side panels in the back. Center console is the original center console. So this is a fiberglass replica shift bezel. Normally there's a coin tray back here as well, which we had to cut out to make the shifters. These are from a company called RA Designs or Rad Designs. This is the obvious 1 through 5. This is 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive. This is the factory low range of 2.28, and this is the lower 4.7. I can engage low range separately from 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive, so I can use all of those gear ratios either or, which is something that actually comes in handy. It's nice to be able to pop into low range in like a parking lot or whatever. It comes in handy. This is a 3D printed cup holder from a company called, I think, BH3D. And then this is the switch for the rear tailgate window, which has been rewired with a kit from 12-volt guy, so it's always hot, and normally you have to key on to do that, but now I don't have to, which is really convenient for camping and stuff like that. The speedometer is mechanical, so that was fine. The tachometer goes through a Dakota digital box in the kick panel there to convert the signal to something that is calibrated to match that gauge. And then there's a Toyota temperature sender in line in one of the coolant hoses as well as an original Toyota oil sender in the oil cooler, so I can get pressure. I also have a little Murphy gauge, little digital gauge that gives me error codes from the Cummins were they to happen, and also allows me to have digital readouts of things like coolant temperature and the engine hours and all that kind of information readily, so I can actually compare, like learn what the arrow actually means on the Toyota gauge, because like what is high, what is low, when does it start moving. For the Toyota heads, the needle won't actually start moving past halfway until you're over about 210. So if you start noticing the needle move, you're actually pretty close to trouble. It is now drive-by-wire, though I was able to cut and bend the original factory pedal to fit into that. Like I said, SR5 vehicle, power windows, everybody loves it. Stealth camping setup here in the back, some sleeping pads. Latest addition is a 12-volt blanket, which I love for those freezing Sierra nights. A little Wagon power cube. They're actually a local company. I think they're in Hayward or somewhere down there, so that was kind of fun. Some milk crates with repair parts, supplies, fluids, and then cooking gear as well. A little roof nest, and then an old angle fridge that I got off Craigslist. I've got
whatever works.
Yeah, I've got little tools and spare parts tucked in a lot of different corners. There's like bags inside the roll bar. This is a factory roll bar. All the 4Runners come with that. And then I also took the back seats out and just attached some wood panels to the underside, which gives me some extra storage as well. My tool roll down here, and then a camping chair, and that's all she wrote.
Cool.